knowledge base, who are achievers, and who will drive your company. So leadership is not confined to the day-to-day administration of the organization. Leadership goes beyond that. Leadership is all about taking the company to the next level or making the company achieving its visionary state of existence. Leadership plays a very vital role. And if we do make an analysis of the organizational hierarchy, we may have executives, non-executives, but leadership should be there at all the levels of the organization. So it's the leader who can bring the success factor for the organizations itself. Asam Desai says corporate leadership is all about building an institution that delivers value to the generation of customers, shareholders, and the employees. The role of leader is essentially the architectural in nature. So it's the leader who is the connecting point, who is the point of contact among all those stakeholders. A leader is a person who takes all the stakeholders along with him. A leader is a person who actually drives the organization towards its visionary state of existence. But in the process, we need to think of involving all those stakeholders like customers, shareholders, employees. In fact, customers, stakeholders, employees are the internal stakeholders. Right? How do we collaborate? How do we, coordinate among all of those stakeholders are what is that makes this leadership more prominent for the organizations. So essentially, leadership is vital for the organizations. Ms. Anu Agar says, anyone can be a leader. She dares to dream and can inspire others to take up her cause. Now, leader is a person who should be a visionary. But whenever we talk of this leadership essentially is supplemented by followership. So the effectiveness of leadership is not fruitful unless and until the leadership is supported by the follower. That means what? A leader should have the ability to generate the vision, but at the same time, leader's role is to make the followers understand the vision that the leader has. The leader is a dreamer, but effectiveness of leadership depends on the ability of the leader to sell his dreams, sell his vision to the followers. Can he accommodate the followers? Can the followers really take up the cause of the leader to the next level? That is what that makes this leadership important. And Satish Tandon says, leadership makes the difficult possible. Leadership is not about domination. It's an art of making people work towards the common goal. The role of the leader is essentially a wider one. It's not confined to the day-to-day administration. As we have understood that, leaders should have a wider horizon. The leader should be able to see the future. Leader's ability of scenario building is what that makes these organizations more successful. So leaders are the people who take all other towards the common goal. Leader is a person who coordinates all the human resources of the organizations itself. So that is what that makes the essence of leadership in an organization. Leaders are not the substitutes of the managers, but we want leadership to be developed at each and every level of the organization. As if we have understood earlier, maybe whenever these people who take the assignment at an international level, may it be the structure reproducer, may it be the troubleshooters, may it be the product operational manager, whatever it may be, leadership is required at all the level itself. and that makes the leadership more impactful in the organization. So understanding the concept of this leadership, now Harlan Kuhn says it is the influence or the art or the process of influencing people so that they strive willingly and enthusiastically towards the achievement of the goal. Now, this is what that we need to take into consideration, because here leadership, as if we have understood before also, like leadership is not about exhibiting the dominance. Leadership is not about exercising the power or authority. Leadership is about taking the people together towards the common goal. So, unless and until people do drive loyalty towards the organization, unless and until people do drive the commitment towards the organization, unless and until they act on their own towards the organization, hence the sense of ownership, belongingness, the people, the contribution made by the people won't be effective. And the leader's role is exactly to provide the level of commitment, the level of motivation, the level of enthusiasm, the level of participation, ownership towards the organization itself. Warren Benny says, leadership is a function of knowing yourself, having a vision that is well communicated, building trust among the colleagues, taking effective action to realize your own leadership potential. So essentially, leadership is not about selling a dream to the followers itself, but leadership begins with an assessment of our own self. Leaders must be able to understand their own potentials. Leaders must be able to understand their own dreams and desires, their own vision. Then they need to communicate that vision. Then they need to sell that vision to the followers so that the followers can, take up the cause. And the most important thing that you can find out within a leader is that the leader is a prisoner of his followers, right? That means what? Unless and until the followers do have a level of trust, level of confidence on the leadership, they're not going to follow that. So developing that sense of trust, leadership, is what the leader should focus on. Right? So one need to have a confidence, one need to understand his own potential as a leader, and as a leader, what sort of traits I do have. Maybe we are not going deeper inside into this leadership theories, but if we to talk of these leadership theories, we broadly classify it into three such categories. One is trait-based leadership, behavioral-based leadership, and the situational leadership. Trait-based leadership says that leaders do have certain traits which are within them from the birth itself. So, by default, few such people do come out with the leadership style of their own. Behavioral theory says leadership can be learned and leadership can be implemented with proper training and learning progress. Situational theories focuses on the leadership should vary in terms of different situations. So, if you talk of the basic leadership attitude, leadership styles itself, may it be autocratic or authoritarian kind of leadership, may it be bureaucratic or democratic kind of leadership, may it be laissez-faire or freedom kind of leadership. But not that any of this leadership is good or bad, but all of these leaderships do fit into certain situations. That is what we need to understand. What sort of leadership fits into what sort of situation. And in this process, we need to talk of the impact that different cultures do have on this leadership. That is what that makes our study more purposeful. However, whenever we talk of this leadership, let's confine the basic requirement of leadership into few such points where we talk of leadership is what that provides synergy. Synergy is the ability of that particular person to exercise more beyond his individual capability. That is so. When we do talk of this synergy, people contribute more towards the vision. Leader's role is essential when we say that the human resources of the organization are most important assets, and it's not about retaining them in the organization, but also it is required to unify them. Let's make it unity one. Let's make it a team one. That is what. Leader's role is to establish and grow that personal bonds among the members, where we are talking of the cohesiveness. How do the members do take all other members of the organization? What sort of relationship they do have? How do they work for the other person, for the team members? Leadership is promoted from that. Leadership essentially removes all those kind of differences that people do have among themselves. Leadership, restores this team cohesiveness. Leadership develops that trust and belief among the team members and the self itself. So there has to be a bond between the leader and the team members. Team members, the leadership is effective when the team members do believe the leaders blindly. That is what. That sort of trust within should be there between the leader and the followers. And leaders do help in making the individual team members to discharge their roles and responsibilities effectively and efficiently itself. Right? What it says, leadership is essentially an architecture, because leaders do make the teammates understand their role. That means what is being expected out of them by the organization. Each and every member should understand that, and each and every member should contribute what is being expected from them. That is what. We are talking of leaders' role is essentially important in terms of developing this team dynamics. Leaders do impact the members in terms of behavioral modifications. That is what is the difference that we do find out between the manager and a leader itself, where the manager is bound by the authority or the responsibility assigned on the managers itself. So they are guided by the rules, regulations, policies, plans of the organization. Leader can go beyond that to establish a kind of personal relationship with the followers itself, with the team members itself. So leaders are the person who do have an informal relationship, and that is what that makes these people to modify their behavior. And leadership is essential when it comes to team efforts and that kind of results which are being produced by the teams. But question is, we have understood leadership, but whether there is a universalistic approach for the leadership. The kind of trait theory or behavior theory or situational theory, whatever theories are available there, or the studies that has been taken into consideration in the past, can we sum up a particular set of traits that can define a true international leader? That's the challenge that we need to have. Let's analyze that. So whenever we are talking of any such multinational leader, a leader for any international organization, global organization, studies have revealed that there are 5 such individual and social competencies that these leaders should have. 5 such individual and social competencies. These 5 are this self-awareness, leaders should understand himself. We'll discuss that. Self-regulations, motivations, empathy, and social skills. Whenever we talk of this self-awareness, the leader should have the ability to analyze himself first in terms of the different sort of emotions, moods, drives, desires. Not only that, the leader should analyze of his own, but the leader should have the ability to understand the implications of the same over others. Whenever we to talk of the implications or the effects that these things do have on the others, that makes the leadership more effective. So whenever we do say that the leader's self-awareness is high, whenever the self-awareness of the leader is high, the leader is more self-confident, the leaders do have a realistic self-assessment, and thereby, if at all, any such kind of loopholes, lacunas are there, the leaders should work on that to rectify that. The objective is I need to understand myself and the impact that my behavior will have on others. That is what that leadership is essential. Whenever we talk of self-regulations, it's about the control mechanism that I do have, the ability to redirect myself, the ability to think beyond doing any such particular thing. So, it's all about understanding the basic aspects of an organization and making an implication of that for the overall benefit of the organization. Like whenever we talk of the leaders who are high on this self-regulation itself, they exhibit trustworthiness, they exhibit integrity in their approach, they're open to changes, they are comfortable with ambiguity itself. So whenever we talk of any such kind of initiative that has to be taken by the organization, maybe any such kind of new initiative we are talking of, or any such modifications in the existing set of things. So there, the leadership has to be self-regulated. That is what we need to understand. So the leaders need to be motivated by themselves. By the word motivation, we mean that the leaders are the people who do have the ability to go beyond the basic needs. Like it may be the monetary needs, it may be the status of the people in the organization. Right? Leadership is exhibited in terms of the passion towards the organization, passion towards the work itself. And when the leaders are motivated enough, if they're high on this motivation scale, we say the leaders drive the organization to the goal accomplishment. The leaders do exhibit organizational commitment. The leaders exhibit optimistic behavior. So that is what that should be taken as a trait of a particular leader itself. Right? Leaders do exhibit empathy. Empathy says, to what extent I can understand the emotions of other people who are working with me. Right? So unless and until I exhibit this empathetic relationship with my colleagues, the effectiveness will not be there. Say, for example, if we talk of all those leaders who are high on this empathetic approach, they are the leaders who who do have the ability to retain the talent among themselves. These are the leaders who are highly sensitive in terms of the cross-cultural differences. So when we want these leaders to be effective across cultures, the leaders need to exhibit empathy. And whenever we talk of the last one, social skills, it is how the leaders do build up the relationships, how the leaders do build up the networking, how the leaders do develop rapport among their stakeholders. So these are essential. And the leaders who are high on their social skills, actually they are the change makers. They are the team leaders. So we understand that whenever we do talk of leaders across cultures, at least these are the 5 such individual and social competencies that should be there with the leaders. The question is, having these 5 such competencies, can it make the leader a true international or a global leader? That's all. So here we are talking of the universalism in leadership. Can I have certain leadership qualities which can be there with the leader across the culture? May it be authoritarian, may it be autocratic, may it be democratic or participative, may it be laissez-faire kind of thing. May it be the production-oriented leader or people-oriented leader. So, studies have revealed that, leaders exist. Like as we started our discussion with that, making an analysis of the past itself, we can think of the existence of the leaders across cultures. But when it comes to the universalistic approach, a particular trait that the leaders should have, we come out with a particular sort of leadership, which we call it as a transformational leadership. Okay? So this can be more effective across the cultural barriers itself. Somehow, tracing the history of this transformational leadership, we can go back to the administrative era, Max Weber. He has coined the term a charismatic leader. Now, charisma is a approach where we say individuals do exhibit particular traits that make them great. So the great man theory says now people do have certain traits within themselves from the birth itself. Maybe they're inherent traits. Right? What distinguishes those people from the other itself? So whenever we talk of this charismatic leadership, we come out with, like, from the history itself, we can say Martin Luther King can be a person who is a charismatic leader. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, father of our nation, is a charismatic leader. So making those kind of examples led us to coin this term transformational leaders. So a transformational leader is a person who actually has a vision. He articulates the vision itself. Okay? A transformational leader is a leader who breaks the status quo, who always challenges the status quo. So a transformational leader is a person who is never happy with the existing processes. He is always a development-oriented person. He always would like to take up new initiative, new things. So traditional orthodox pattern of work is being challenged by these transformational leaders. They provide these goals and the plan itself, where would you say that this transformational leadership is kind of goal setting, path setting leadership, where he defines the direction for the followers. Transformational leaders are the people who actually give a meaning to the goal, purpose. If we to talk of a particular leadership, a particular kind of reason, then there has to be sufficient reasons behind that. So that has to be there. Transformational leader is a person who takes risks, who motivates himself and other people, who is a power hub. That means what? The transformational leader should have the control over others, right? And of course, transformational leadership is what that is more prominent with high ethical and moral standards itself. But thing is that whenever we do talk of this transformational leadership, even if we do say that in most of the cultures, this transformational leadership is effective. But still we can say that before implementing any such kind of leadership trait, we need to evaluate the cultural predispositions, the environmental factors. So leadership has to be situational. Particular pattern of leadership has to be taken into consideration whenever we do talk of these leadership traits. Say for example, if we to talk of this transformational leadership itself, do I have particular traits of this transformational leader which makes this transformational leadership effective? I may not. It has to be based on the situation. Say for example, if we do say any kind of transformational leader in an underdeveloped country and a developed country, do they have similar sort of approach? May not be. In an underdeveloped country, a transformational leader has to be more directive in nature as considered against the developed nations. That is what we need to understand. Different approaches, different environment, different cultures, your leadership approach will vary. Say, for example, we are talking of a Japanese concept of contingent reward. Contingent reward means in Japanese culture, they believe that the leaders do play a highly significant role in the accomplishment of the organization's goals. So leadership is significant over there. Leadership is significant over there. But if we to talk of this Arabian culture or the Turkish culture itself, they do have a belief that everything is possible only if God wills for the same. So, not like the Japanese people, this Arab people or Turkish people, they ignore the role of leadership. That is what we need to understand. So when it varies in terms of the cultures. That is what. So we need to understand the different sort of cross-cultural aspects. Question is, whenever we talk of this leadership, this leadership is essentially based on the cultural norms. But still we need to understand one thing over here. Whenever these leaders, they stand out, they are too different from the cultural norms in their approach, they're not accepted. They're simply rejected by the people. At the same time, if the leaders do other, they stick to the cultural norms, that doesn't make them great man. That doesn't make them, the leaders itself. People don't accept them as a leader. People don't take that particular person as a different one. He is like a common man. So neither the leaders should completely adhere to the rules and regulations or the norms of the culture, nor the leaders should completely stand out of the norms of that particular culture. Effective leadership is what, when we say leaders do exhibit their leadership by breaking some of the existing norms, not all, not completely standing out of that, some of the norms that requires to be changed, modified, and that is what that makes this leadership effective. So the differences or the basic aspects that makes this leaders different from the masses, different from the common people, are like leaders do have the vision, they do have obsession of what need to be achieved, passion for achievement, right? In the organization, in the group, in the society, whatever it may be. But the leader should have that obsession and passion for it. The leader should inspire the other people to follow the vision and make their work a reality. Most of the time, if the leader is not being able to sell his vision to the followers, then the basic purpose is lost. If the followers won't understand the cause of the leader, they're not going to follow. That is what we need to understand. Right? And they're able to organize their followers into cohesive, loyal groups, right? And at the same time, their followers should be rewarded for the kind of achievement they put forth for that. Right? So, leadership and leadership is completely different from that of the approach that is common people should have. But before going for understanding different impact that these cultures do have on leadership itself, let's talk of some of the studies that has already been undertaken in this way to understand different sort of leadership styles itself. Elton May or Athils Raja, they have conducted this Hawthorne experiment in General Electricals, and the basic outcome, that elimination study itself, the basic outcome is that this physiological factors, the environmental factors, may not put a significant impact on the productivity of the employees itself, but the human element present at the place of work is what that brings a difference. So that is what these human elements needs to be recognized, needs to be taken into consideration. That means what? As a leader, a leader should be a people-oriented person. That is what we need to understand. A leader is a prisoner of his followers. The leader is driven by the value generated by the followers itself. Right? Leader is the representative of their followers itself. That is what we need to understand. Iowa State Studies says, conducted by Lippitt and Boyd, right? There are three different category of leadership they have identified. One is an authoritarian leader who is a boss, right? And the authoritarian leader accumulates all power, authority within himself only. There's a person who gives directions, who provides directions to the followers, and all followers do exhibit that. Democratic leader or a participative leader is a person, right, who involves all those followers, all the people, all the team members in the decision-making process. So leader is quite participative in its approach. The laissez-faire leader is a kind of leadership, and this is the kind of leadership which you can follow when you see the team members are competent and the leader does have enough trust and belief on the team members. Right? So the leader completely delegates the tasks to the team members, and the team members does that. Depends on what sort of followers you do have. Michigan studies says there are two different kind of leadership. One is a employee-oriented leader, people-oriented leader, and the second one is a production-oriented leader. So this particular theory focuses on the kind of thrust given by the leader on the people or on the production process. Whether the thrust is on the accomplishment of goals, tasks, objectives of the organization, or the thrust is on the growth and development of people, the growth and development of resources of the organization. That sort of thing is there. We're talking about Ohio State studies, same thing, consideration and initiating structure itself. So whether you are talking of both people and the goals, or you are only focusing on the goals of the organization. Okay. Now, based on these, let us talk of, let us understand the leadership styles across different sort of cultures itself. Right? Let us talk of Japan as a eastern part of our economy. Right? Whenever we talk of this Japan, there are certain elements which has been enrooted into the culture of Japan itself, which has a significant impact on the kind of leadership itself. Like we are talking of a concept called Amai. Amai says your love, your patience, your dependence. It's a kind of mother-infant relationship itself, right? And this Amai is diffused deeply into this Japanese culture itself, and it is reflected everywhere. Made with the family relationships, made with the organizational level of relationships, made with the societal relationships, it is reflected everywhere. So a kind of relationship which is there existing among the higher authorities and the subordinates is a relationship which is based on this love, affection, and the kind of dependency. So mother-infant kind of relationship we talk of. Some other concepts like there's a concept like on and giving. On says is the obligation towards others whenever we do receive certain kind of gifts from others itself. Giri says it is the like most of the time when on says it's a kind of debt that I owe on others. Giri says I need to pay back that debt. So, as if we have understood in compensation, it's a kind of something that contributes other things. So, whenever organizations or the people of the organization do receive their wages and salaries, they treat it as a kind of debt towards the organization, and they need to pay back their debt by contributing their best efforts for the organization. We are talking of certain concepts like Kobun, where there's a master guild relationship, master discipline kind of relationship. And there may be some of the concepts like Senpakai, Kokai, what it says, the kind of senior and junior relationship. And most of the concepts are based on the interpersonal relationships. What it says, subordinates are free to discuss their personal problems with their senior or higher executives itself. And the higher authorities, senior executives, do take care of their personal level of requirements. So it's more based on relationships. It's more based on the kind of interpersonal relationships, love, belonging to one another. So leadership in Japan is not authoritarian. It's more participative, kind of thing, laissez-faire kind of thing, where people do belong to one another. That kind of thing you need to understand. But if we're talking of the Arabian countries, right? In Arabian countries, there's a tribal kinship concept. Like what it says, the leaders do play the role of a father, they do play the role of a protector, they are the caregivers. Right? So, it's the leaders who shoulder all the responsibility on them. So, somehow rather, whenever we do talk of this leadership, in Arabian countries, you'll see that there is more authoritarian leadership, but in true sense, it's not autocratic, it's more authoritarian kind of thing, where the leader takes care of their subordinates. So here, the hierarchy is based on authority, rules, regulation, contingencies, all of those, right, are broadly divided among the individuals who make these rules and regulations. So rules and regulations cannot be decentralized. That is what, subordination of efficiency of goals, human relations, and the personal friendships, all of those things. A particular patriot's approach, father-like approach that the leaders do exhibit itself. Some other concepts like prophetic leadership and caliphal leadership. Right? What it says, we have understood the concept of great man. Arabian countries do believe on that, do think of that. Like the people do have certain exceptional qualities, traits within themselves that make them great. But leadership can be exhibited, right, in two different ways. Let us talk of a great man exhibiting leadership. So that means what? That comes under this prophetic leadership, where people do accept that particular person as the leader. So the prophetic leader doesn't require to exhibit authority or the coercion for their leadership. So they can exhibit love, care, because they are already admired by the followers as the leader. That is what that makes this sense. But when an ordinary man takes up leadership position, that comes under this caliphal leadership, right? It says that he need to exhibit authority or coercion to prove his leadership. That is what that makes the approach different in Arabian countries itself. If we talk of France, there's a complete different set of leadership structure that we can find out, right? Where the leader is admired in terms of the cadre. That's it, three different, like everything is based on your cadre itself. That is what we need to understand. Right? Some or other, there can be different ways by which you can achieve this cadre position. They do have all those like facilities. They do, these cadre people, cadre leaders are the leaders who can reinforce the intellectual and analytical orientations. They do have highly centralized, rigid hierarchies, positions of this authority are respected, right? And executives do command respect and obedience. All of those things can be enjoyed by this cadre. But it begins from the very early age itself, where people are segregated in terms of their educational qualification, right? All those people who do perform very well, they are being taken by these professional schools, and any such individual who graduates from those kind of professional schools gets a cadre status directly. So they take up senior most positions in the organizations, leadership positions. Any other people who just graduates from other schools, can get this cadre status only after having 5 to 10 years of job experiences. So this is what we call it as a on-the-job cadre status, right? And whenever we do have people who doesn't belong to these categories. They're not from professional schools, so they're not graduated itself. So they may get this cadre status over the years of experience. It may take several years for that. But once this cadre status has been given, so that can make these leaders more effective in an organizational setup itself. So these are some of the differences that we do find out among the cultures itself. And leadership tips, like you need to have a clear objective, you need to build teams, achieve the goals, individual team performances, difficult decisions. All of those are what that the individual leaders should possess whenever they are having international assignments. To conclude, that this leadership has to be different considering the cultural aspects of a particular country. That is what we do. If we move to the next concept, that is motivation itself, we understand that motivation is all about making the people to do, not because what you want them to do, but because they want to do it by themselves. That is what it says. An inspirational process. Motivation is simply an inspirational process which impels the members of the team to pull their weight effectively and give their loyalty to the group, carry out properly the tasks that they have accepted, and generally to play effective part in the job that the group has undertaken. That means what? Motivation is a process whereby we can simply inspire the people to contribute their best for the kind of assignment, for the kind of job that they have undertaken. That is what we need to understand. But we're not going deeper inside into it. Let's talk of these motivational theories and the implications of these motivational theories from an international perspective itself. Now, one of the foundational motivational theories are given by Maslow itself, Maslow's need priority model. But it says that this is a need-based model, but it says people are motivated in the process of satisfying their need. And he classified all the needs of the people into 5 such categories: physiological need, safety needs, social needs or love needs, esteem needs, and actualization needs. Into 3 broad heads we can see: basic needs, psychological needs, and self-fulfillment needs. But one of the assumptions made by Maslow is that these needs do emerge one after the other. All of these needs do emerge one after the other. Like most of the time, people would like to fulfill their basic needs first, then their psychological needs, then their self-fulfillment needs. But whenever we do talk of, understanding this, basic needs means your physiological need, like it has been mentioned over here: food, water, your bare essentials of life. Safety needs says you protect yourself, so you're the feeling of security, the feeling of safety that you need to have. Belongingness, love needs says that relationships that you do have with your friends, with your family, like societal relationships. Esteem needs are the needs for being taken as a self-respect over others. And actualization is when people do realize the core purpose of their life. But most of the time, This hierarchy of needs, as if being proposed by Maslow itself, when it is implemented or being tasted, right, has been observed that most of the time employees do not want to fulfill their self-actualization needs from the place of work itself. Maybe whenever we are talking of this physiological safety, social needs, esteem needs, all of these needs can be fulfilled at the organizational level. But most of the time it was observed that the self-actualization needs are fulfilled by the employees outside the organization. Right? So what it says, self-actualization says achieving its own potential, own creativity, own innovativeness. The objective is to drive the innermost potential of that particular employee towards the organization's goals, towards the organizational processes. But most of the time, employees do fail in that, or employees do not want to put for their best. They do not draw their self-actualization from the work itself. That is what is. Beyond that, whenever we talk of this hierarchy of needs, order of its needs, right? Now, different cultures do put a like importance to different sort of needs, as if maybe we're talking of this self-actualization need is what that has been realized by majority part of the world itself as the highest order need. But whenever we talk of this Arabian culture itself, right? So those Arab countries, they prefer to have that business within close relatives, among the family members, within very close relatives. Right? So Arab countries is a place where the highest level of need is being considered as the social needs, not the self-actualization need. That is what we need to understand. So different sort of need is there in different cultures. We need to understand a particular need that dominates the behavior of the people itself. That is why now under first ERG model, right? They focused on three different sort of things, right? All these 5 level of needs can be clubbed, and any such particular need can dominate the behavior of any such leader at any point of time. What is required is to understand the importance that people do have on different cultural perspectives. That is what we need to talk of. We are talking of Herzberg's two-factor theory. What it says, Herzberg has identified two different dimensions of the job, where let's say the opposite of satisfaction is having no satisfaction. The opposite of dissatisfaction is having no dissatisfaction. Satisfaction and dissatisfaction are not exactly the opposite words. Right? So there are certain factors which can remove the level of dissatisfaction. If not provided, that will lead to dissatisfaction, but if provided, will remove the level of dissatisfaction itself. And he grouped all of those factors are like the Hygiene factors: basic working conditions, co-worker relationship, policies, rules, basic wage, salary, all those incentives, all of those will come under Hygiene factor. What it says, if not provided, employees will be dissatisfied, right? But providing these hygiene factors will not make the employee satisfied. Providing these hygiene factors will remove the level of dissatisfaction. But what makes the employee satisfied then? He grouped different aspects into another group, call it as motivators. Motivators are like your achievements in the organization, recognitions, responsibilities, work itself, challenging work itself, advancements, personal growth. These are all the motivators. So these motivators are the factors which makes the employees motivated, contributing towards the organization's goal. That is okay. So some of the factors need to be considered as the factors which is treated as a hygiene factor. Some other factors are motivators. But whenever a survey was made across the globe for the implications of the same theory, it was observed that it was not supported by North Americans. That means what? These hygiene factors and the motivators may vary from culture to culture. So we need to understand the different sort of factors that may be treated as a motivational factor. However, this Herzberg's two-factor theory has provided us a guideline to understand different factors which can really lead to the motivation of the employees in the organization itself. We are talking of McClelland's motivation theory, where, as we have said, Maslow has got 5 different level of needs. McClelland has come out with 3, like clubbing those 5 into 3 different groups itself. Need for power, need for affiliation, need for achievement, right? Where we to talk of need for power is to have that control over others, influence over others, right? So they enjoy these competitions, winning the competitions, enjoy the status, recognitions. They would like to make their job safe. Affiliation is to belong to that particular group itself. Achievement is, accomplishments, the risks, right? They take risks, they take challenges, all of those things. Now, out of a survey, it has been found out that, if you talk of Japanese culture, they are the people who do take lower risks, less risk-taking people. Right? So they do not have higher need of achievement. Similarly, Indians, Mexicans, they can be motivated if they do have this high need of achievement itself. Right? Quickly, going through that expectancy theory, what does it say? Motivation is a factor of expectancy, the relationship that people do have between their goals and desires. Instrumentality is the relationship between this performances to reward system, and valence is whether a particular performance has resulted in with a particular kind of reward or not. Right? But any of these expectancies, instrumentality or valence, as we have discussed, also is completely based on the kind of culture itself. Equity theory, Stacey Adams says, similarly, people always do compare their inputs to the outputs. What I'm contributing, what I'm getting back, what others are contributing, what they are getting back. So always it leads to 3 different situations, whether there is underpayment inequity, overpayment inequity, or equity. So always there has to be equity to make the people come out with different sort of productivity, we do say. Right? So let us end up our session over here with this discussion that whether it is leadership or it is motivation, but it has to be based on the different factors that is closely associated with the culture of the nation itself. So thank you very much. And once again, we'll meet tomorrow to continue our journey. Thank you. Have a good day.